С нами Бог. Remember, no Russian. Up the stairs. Go.
Vale, realisты. Осторожно! Дороги, мать вашу!
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another video here on the SSA Philosophy channel, where we dive into the philosophy of characters from video games to TV shows to movies, etc., etc. So in today's video, we're going to be going over the philosophy of the character known as Vladimir Makarov. So, of course, without any further interruptions or without any further hesitation, we are going to go right on ahead and we're going to get started here today with this video. Vladimir Makarov, one of the most infamous characters in the Call of Duty Modern Warfare series, is emblematic of chaos in human form, crafted as a stark representation of ambition twisted into terror. More than a mere villain, Makarov is a complex individual whose philosophy dives deep into themes of power, manipulation, and ideology. He epitomizes the darker side of humanity, wielding terror as a means to unbridle his own ambitions, shaping events and manipulating others with a single ruthless goal: chaos and control over a world he sees as morally weak. Yet to comprehend Makarov is not to justify him. It is it is to peer into the psyche of a man shaped by cynicism, opportunism, and a perverse sense of moral decay. In exploring Makarov's philosophy, we delve into a worldview that champions disorder as a natural state. His approach is not born from passion, but from a cold, calculative strategy aimed at destabilizing global powers to serve his own purpose. To Makarov, the ends are all that matter, and he'll employ any means, no matter how brutal, to achieve them. So, through these five central tenets: power as an ultimate aim, violence as a means to order, distrust of centralized authority, manipulation of ideology, and an embrace of of amorality, will navigate Makarov's labyrinth mind, gaining insight into how his beliefs fuel his unrelenting brutality and unyielding resolve.
You know who I
Yes.
am? Then you know what I want.
You're insane.
Russia will take all of Europe, even if it must stand upon a pile of ashes. I want the launch codes, Mr.
You'll
President.
never get them.
Every man has his weakness. Find the girl.
For Makarov, power represents the only true currency of existence. In his philosophy, power is neither inherently good nor bad. It simply is a raw force to be wielded. Makarov views the world through a lens where those in power create and shape reality, and those without are merely subjects, bending under its weight. His actions are guided by the relentless pursuit of influence and control, not for glory or fame, but for the sake of domination itself. In his worldview, people are tools, nations are pawns, and conflict is a game of conquest and reformation. Power, as Makarov sees it, is the only constant, the only force capable of influencing change on a grand scale, and the only element of the human experience worth pursuing with unyielding fervor. The concept of power as the ultimate aim is a complex and multifaceted one that has been explored by philosophers throughout history. It's a concept that can be interpreted in various ways, depending on the philosophical framework and the specific context in which it is discussed. In some philosophical traditions, power is seen as a neutral or even positive force, a means to achieve other goals or to create a just and equitable society. In others, it is viewed with suspicion as a corrupting influence that can lead to oppression and tyranny. One of the most influential figures in the exploration of power as an ultimate aim is Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche's uh, Nietzsche argued that the will to power is the fundamental driving force of all human action. He believed that individuals and societies are constantly striving to increase their power, whether it be physical, psychological, or spiritual. This drive, according to Nietzsche, is what motivates human creativity, innovation, and progress. However, Nietzsche also warned of the dangers of unchecked power. He argued that the pursuit of power can lead to nihilism, a sense of meaninglessness and despair. This is because power, when pursued for its own sake, can become a destructive force that undermines human values and destroys the very things that make life worth living. Another important figure in the discussion of power is Michael Foucault. So, Foucault argued that power is not simply a property of individuals or institutions, but rather a complex network of relationships that permeates all aspects of society. He believed that power is exercised through a variety of techniques, such as surveillance, discipline, and discourse. These techniques can be used to shape individuals' thoughts, behaviors, and desires, and to maintain social control. Foucault's work has been influential in the development of critical theory and post structuralism. It has also been applied to a wide range of fields, including sociology, psychology, and cultural studies. In addition to Nietzsche and Foucault, other philosophers have also explored the concept of power as an ultimate aim. For example, Machiavelli argued that the pursuit of power is essential for political leaders, who must be willing to use whatever means necessary to achieve their goals. Hobbes, on the other hand, argued that the pursuit of power can lead to a state of war, in which individuals are constantly vying for dominance. The concept of power as the ultimate aim is a complex and controversial one. It raises important questions about the nature of human motivation, the role of power in society, and the ethical implications of the pursuit of power. While some philosophers have argued that power is a necessary evil, others have warned of its destructive potential. Ultimately, the question of whether power is a positive or negative force is one that each individual must answer for themselves. This belief explains Makarov's willingness to manipulate, betray, and even slaughter masses indiscriminately. His vision is not confined by conventional morality. In his eyes, individuals are either powerful or insignificant, a binary that he feels shapes the world. By seizing power, he considers himself a master of his destiny, unbound by the weaknesses of empathy or restraint.
Hold your fire.
No шевелитесь! Get in! We've sent a strong message with this attack, Makarov.
That was no message. This is a message.
The Americans thought he could deceive us. When they find that body, all of Russia will cry for war.
Makarov is not a believer in chaos for chaos's sake. Rather, he views calculated violence as a means to reveal hidden truths. To him, the illusions of peace, comfort, and stability are fragile constructs masking a world driven by competition and survival. By inciting violence and upheaval, Makarov aims to expose what he considers the natural state of society, one where conflict and struggle are inherent. His acts of terror are less about achieving immediate tactical goals and more about stripping away facades, forcing people to confront a harsh reality. The concept of violence as a means to order is a complex and often disturbing one. Yet, it has been a recurring theme throughout human history. It involves the use of force, coercion, and intimidation to establish, maintain, or restore social order. While it may seem counterintuitive, violence has been employed in various contexts to achieve seemingly noble goals, such as justice, security, or and progress. The Leviathan. So Thomas Hobbes, in his in his seminal work Leviathan, argued that the state of nature is a state of war, where individuals are driven by self-interest and fear. To escape this chaotic state, individuals must surrender their rights to a sovereign power, capable of enforcing order through the threat or use of violence. The just war theory. That this theory rooted in Christian and Islamic thought. It outlines the conditions under which war is morally justifiable, which, while it does emphasize the importance of peace, it also acknowledges that violence may be necessary as a last resort to defend justice and protect innocent lives. Revolutionary violence. Many revolutionary movements have employed violence as a means to overthrow oppressive regimes and establish new social orders. The American and French revolutions, for example, involved significant bloodshed but are often celebrated as turning points in human history. So the use of violence to establish order presents a paradoxical situation. While it may temporarily suppress disorder, it can also create new forms of violence and instability. Some key points to consider are the cycle of violence, the legitimization of violence, and the erosion of moral values. So, the cycle of violence. The use of violence can lead to a cycle of retaliation, where each act of violence begets another. This can escalate into widespread conflict and suffering. The legitimization of violence. When violence is used to enforce a particular order, it can normalize the use of force as a means of resolving disputes. This can undermine the rule of law and lead to a culture of violence. The erosion of moral values. The use of violence can erode moral values and undermine the principles of human dignity and compassion. It can also dehumanize both the perpetrators and the victims of violence. In contemporary society, the debate over the use of violence as a means to, order continues. Key issues include the war on terror. The global war on terror has raised, questions about the effectiveness of military force in combating terrorism and promoting stability. Police brutality and systemic racism. The use of excessive force by law enforcement has sparked widespread protests and calls for police reform. The role of violence in social movements. Social movements often employ various tactics, including civil disobedience and direct action. In some cases, violence may be used as a last resort to challenge oppressive systems. While violence may be sometimes be necessary to address urgent threats and protect human life, it is essential to approach its use with caution and restraint. It is crucial to explore nonviolent alternatives and to seek peaceful solutions to conflict. In Makarov's mind, violence is a clarifying force, one that removes the softness of peace and leaves only the strong to survive. He sees his actions as a form of brutal honesty, stripping away pretenses of civilization to reveal the primal nature within humanity. To him, it's only through conflict that people are forced to awaken, to recognize the structures of control, and ultimately to question them. Violence in Makarov's philosophy is both a tool and an instrument of awakening.
All warfare is based on deception. For years, the West's hypocrisy has made the world a battlefield. The corrupt talk, while our brothers and sons spill their own blood.
Remember, no Russia.
But deceit cuts both ways.
Russian authorities claim the attack was orchestrated by an American CIA operative named Joseph Allen.
The bigger the lie, the more likely people will believe it. And when a nation cries for vengeance, the lie spreads like a wildfire.
I'm looking at fighter jets over I-95.
The fire builds, devouring everything in its path.
This is a deliberate act of war against the United States.
Our enemies believe that they alone dictate the course of history. That all it takes is the will of a single man.
Makarov's contempt for centralized power stems from his belief that governments are inherently corrupt and weak. He views political entities, particularly global superpowers, as self-serving and hypocritical, preaching peace while perpetuating their own forms of violence and control. Makarov's philosophy holds that true power cannot be entrusted to any institution that places limitations on its wielders, for such limitations dilute strength and foster complacency. The distrust of centralized authority is a recurring theme in philosophy, politics, and social movements. It stems from a variety of concerns, including the potential for abuse of power, the stifling of individual liberty, and the erosion of local knowledge and autonomy. So, ancient philosophy. So, Confucianism. Confucianism, oftentimes emphasizes hierarchical social structures. It also stresses the importance of individual moral cultivation and the responsibility of rulers to govern virtuously. A corrupt or incompetent ruler can lose the mandate of heaven, suggesting a potential for resistance to unjust authority. Taoism often advocates for a more decentralized and natural order, emphasizing individual autonomy and a connection to the Tao or the natural flow of the universe. Enlightenment and modern thought. So, John Locke. So, Locke's social contract theory, it emphasizes the idea that individuals have natural rights that precede the formation of government. He argues that governments are formed to protect these rights, and if a government fails to do so, the people have the right to revolt. Jean Jacques Rousseau. Rousseau's concept of the social contract also emphasizes the idea of popular sovereignty. However, he was critical of centralized authority and argued for a more direct democracy where individuals could participate in the decision making process. Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant. Kant's moral philosophy emphasizes the importance of individual autonomy and the ability to reason for oneself. He was critical of authoritarian regimes and argued for the importance of freedom of thought and expression. So, power and corruption. This argument suggests that power tends to corrupt, and those in positions of authority are more likely to abuse their power. Bureaucracy and inefficiency. Centralized bureaucracies can be slow, inefficient, and unresponsive to the needs of individuals and communities. Loss of local knowledge. Centralized decision making can lead to a loss of local knowledge and expertise, as decisions are made by distant bureaucrats who may not understand the specific needs of a particular community. Stifling of innovation. Centralized authority can stifle innovation and creativity by imposing rigid rules and regulations. Erosion of individual liberty. Centralized authority can erode individual liberty by restricting freedom of speech, assembly, and other fundamental rights. In contemporary society, distrust of centralized authority manifests in various ways, including anarchism, which is a political philosophy that advocates for the abolition of all forms of hierarchical government; libertarianism, which is a political philosophy that emphasizes individual liberty and limited government intervention; populist movements, which often arise as a reaction to perceived failures of centralized authority and a desire for more direct representation of the people; and cyberpunk and hacker culture often celebrate individual autonomy and challenge the authority of large corporations and governments. The rise of technology has both amplified and challenged the role of centralized authority. On the other hand, technology has enabled the rise of powerful centralized institutions like social media companies and tech giants. On the other hand, it has also empowered individuals and decentralized networks, enabling them to bypass traditional channels of authority and information. The debate over the role of centralized authority is likely to continue for the foreseeable future as technology continues to evolve and societal challenges become more complex. The question of how best to balance individual liberty and collective goodwill will remain a central philosophical and political question. This disdain is evident in Vladimir Makarov's, in his constant antagonism towards established world powers and his efforts to destabilize global institutions. For Makarov, centralized authority is a mechanism for suppressing the human spirit, a way to keep populations docile and disconnected from the raw reality of power. By rebelling against these forces, Makarov believes he is exposing their inherent weakness, showing that centralized power, bound by rules and ethics, can be subverted by a force as committed as his own.
Makarov, this is Bryce. Shepard's a war hero now. He's got your operations playbook and he's got a blank check. See what you got, Shepard, and I'll take care of the rest. I know you can hear me on this channel, Makarov. You and I both know you won't last a week.
And neither will you.
Makarov, you ever hear the old saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend?
Price, one day you're going to find that cuts both ways. Shepard is using Site Hotel Bravo. You know where it is. I'll see you there.
Looking forward to it. Give my regards to Zakhaev if you get there first.
Makarov is a master manipulator of ideology, recognizing its potential to influence minds and rally followers to his cause. He understands that belief systems can be powerful motivators, capable of inciting individuals to act against their own interests in service of a greater cause. Yet for Makarov, ideology is not a matter of personal conviction, but a tool of manipulation. His willingness to exploit others' beliefs reveals his cynicism towards human nature. He sees people as fundamentally susceptible to influence, willing to embrace extreme ideas if those ideas promise power, vengeance, or purpose. Ideology, a system of beliefs and values that shapes a person's worldview, provides a framework for understanding the world and one's place within it. It can be used to motivate people to action, to justify social and political systems, and to create a sense of belonging and purpose. However, ideology can also be manipulated to serve the interest of a particular group or individual. So, the different techniques of ideological manipulation are: you have framing, propaganda, symbolism, emotional appeal, and social proof. So, framing This technique involves presenting information in a way that shapes how it is interpreted by selecting certain facts and ignoring others. Manipulators can create a biased narrative that supports their agenda. Propaganda. This involves the dissemination of information, often through mass media, to influence public opinion and behavior. Propaganda can be used to promote a particular ideology to discredit opponents or to mobilize support for a cause. Symbolism. Symbols can be used to evoke strong emotions and to convey complex ideas in a simple and memorable way. Manipulators often use symbols to create a sense of identity and belonging among their followers. Emotional appeal. Emotions such as fear, anger, and hope can be powerful motivators. Manipulators often use emotional appeals to sway public opinion and mobilize support for their cause. Social proof. People are more likely to people are more likely are more likely to conform to the behavior of others, especially when they perceive those others to be similar to themselves. Manipulators often use social proof to persuade people to adopt a particular belief or behavior. And historical examples of ideological manipulation. So you have Nazi Germany. The Nazi regime used propaganda, censorship, and indoctrination to create a cult of personality around Adolf Hitler and to promote the ideology of Nazism. The Soviet Union used propaganda, censorship, and a secret police to control information and to suppress dissent. Modern political campaigns. Modern political campaigns often use sophisticated techniques of ideological manipulation to influence voters. These techniques may include the use of targeted advertising, social media, and fake news. So, the impact of ideological manipulation. So really, the manipulation of ideology can have a profound impact on individuals and societies. It can lead to the suppression of dissent, the erosion of critical thinking, and the polarization of society. In extreme cases, it can lead to violence and war. To protect oneself from ideological manipulation, it is important to develop critical thinking skills. This involves being able to evaluate information, to identify biases, and to think critically about the world around us. It's also important to be aware of the techniques that manipulators use and to be skeptical of claims that seem too good to be true. By understanding the techniques of ideological manipulation and by developing critical thinking skills, we can better protect ourselves from being manipulated and can work to create a more informed and engaged citizenry. Makarov's use of ideology is calculated, selectively employing rhetoric that resonates with disillusioned or radicalized individuals. He's a predator on the lost and the angry, providing them with purpose while pulling their strings to further his own agenda. His belief in the manipulability of ideology underscores his sense of superiority, seeing himself as a puppet master capable of molding perceptions and actions to his will.
Yuri, wake up. Zakayev wouldn't want you to miss this. This deal will generate millions for our cause. Money can buy many things, even power. The road to our future begins here, my friend.
Что значит маловато? Я думал, мы договорились. Zakayev never forgot what we did for him that day. Our reward was power. But power corrupts.
Today, we show the world our true strength. Perhaps it will give you some as well. Is everything ready? Do it.
Thousands of souls extinguished by the push of a button.
Understand, Yuri? This is only the beginning.
This wasn't war. It was madness.
I know what you have done, Yuri. I know what you have told them. My friend, my ally, my betrayer. What happens here today will change the world forever. Nothing can stop this. Not even you.
Пока не докурить сигарету. Тогда уже постарайтесь, случилось несколько часов.
He was a soldier of Russia, not a taker of innocent lives. But in his eyes, this marked me as the enemy. Hey, у нас здесь один выживший!
In the philosophy of Makarov, morality is an illusion, a societal construct designed to control and constrain individuals. He sees traditional ethical values as weaknesses, limitations that prevent true freedom and dominance. Makarov's pragmatism knows no bounds. He rejects concepts of good and evil, right and wrong, treating them as subjective interpretations rather than universal truths. For him, actions are neither moral nor immoral. They are merely effective or ineffective in achieving one's goals. A moral pragmatism, a concept often associated with figures like Machiavelli and Nietzsche, is a philosophy that prioritizes practical outcomes over moral considerations. It's a perspective that suggests actions should be judged not by their inherent goodness or badness, but by their effectiveness in achieving specific goals. So, core tenets of a moral pragmatism. You have first, the ends justify the means. Now, this principle posits that as long as the desired outcome is achieved, the methods employed are secondary. This can lead to morally questionable actions if they are seen as necessary for success, power, and control. Moral pragmatists often recognize the importance of power and control. They may manipulate situations, deceive others, or even resort to violence if it serves their purposes. Relativism. This perspective suggests that moral values are subjective and relative to cultural, historical, or individual contexts. Therefore, what is considered morally right in one situation may be wrong in another. Realpolitik. Now, this term, derived from the German phrase realistic politics, emphasizes the importance of practical considerations over idealistic or moral ones in international relations. A moral pragmatism can be applied to both personal and societal levels. So Machiavelli, his work, The Prince, is a classic example of a moral pragmatism. He argued that a leader must be willing to do whatever is necessary to maintain power, even if it involves deceit, manipulation, or violence. Nietzsche, his philosophy, particularly his concept of the Übermensch, challenges traditional morality and emphasizes the importance of individual will and self creation. Thomas Hobbes' social contract theory suggests that individuals give up some of their freedoms to a sovereign power in exchange for protection and order. This can be seen as a pragmatic approach to governance prioritizing stability over individual liberty. So, criticisms and ethical concerns. Now, moral pragmatism has been criticized for its potential to lead to unethical behavior and a disregard for human life and dignity. Some argue that it can justify actions that are morally reprehensible, such as torture, genocide, or systemic oppression. However, proponents of a moral pragmatism argue that it can be a practical and effective approach to problem solving, especially in complex and challenging situations. They may contend that rigid adherence to moral principles can sometimes hinder progress and prevent the achievement of important goals. A moral pragmatism can be seen in various aspects of modern society, including politics, business, and personal relationships. For example, a politician may prioritize winning an election over upholding ethical standards, or a business leader may make decisions that benefit the company even if they harm employees or the environment. It's important to note that a moral pragmatism, is not necessarily synonymous with immorality. While it may involve making difficult choices, it does not inherently promote evil. However, it is crucial to consider the potential consequences of actions and to balance pragmatic considerations with moral principles. Makarov's embrace of immorality allows him to operate without hesitation, making decisions that others might balk at all in the name of his larger purpose. This perspective frees him from the psychological constraints that hold back those burdened by conscience. In his view, morality is a luxury that powerful individuals cannot afford, for it places barriers between them and their potential. By rejecting ethics altogether, Makarov becomes unbound, ruthless in his pursuits of power and unconcerned with the destruction left in his wake.
Goodbye, Captain Price.
Vladimir Makarov is a character steeped in nihilism, embodying a philosophy that exalts power, violence, and amorality while scorning authority and manipulating ideology. Through his actions and beliefs, he serves as a mirror reflecting the darkness that can emerge when humanity's worst instincts go unchecked. Now, he's not a traditional villain driven by revenge or personal vendetta. Rather, he's driven by a vision of humanity he sees as immutable, a world that requires strength, mercilessness, and dominance to survive. In Makarov's mind, he is a liberator, one who exposes humanity to its true nature by tearing away the comforting illusions that society has placed upon it. However, Makarov's philosophy ultimately serves as a cautionary tale. His single minded pursuit of power, unmoored from any moral compass, demonstrates the inherent dangers of living without empathy or ethics. In seeking to control and redefine reality through chaos, he reveals the existential emptiness that lies beneath his calculated brutality, while he may possess an unyielding resolve. Makarov remains an isolated figure, condemned by his own philosophy to a life devoid of true connection or meaning. His life, a testament to unrestrained ambition and moral indifference, stands as a reminder of the hollow victories won by those who reject humanity in favor of a distorted vision of power. But anyway, folks, that does it here today for this video. If you enjoy this content, and of course you want to see more on the channel, subscribe, hit the like button, notification bell to be notified of every video that I make on the channel. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, all I can say is to always be smooth, always be steady, and always be aggressive. Peace.